Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It depends upon when you're listening. We are the solution. Nothing changes if we change nothing. We are housed at Children's Aid and we're funded by OASIS, the Office of Addiction Services and Supports, and with the New York City Prevention Resource Center. I'm Ronni Katz, and here is my cohort.
Chevar Francis, Community Development Specialist of the New York City Prevention Resource Center, and I'm excited. You know what? Let me be honest. I'm excited. I'm anxious. I'm uh perplexed in a sense of what are we going to talk about. Uh, and I like having conversations with Ronni. So anyone who's listening, Ronni, and Ronni is listening, and she's staring at me too. I like talking to Ronni. I've shared a lot with Ronni over the years, a lot of personal things over the years with Ronni. And I'm a very, very private person, but I've learned to open up, and I think especially with this time of the year, if you're watching the video, I am not cold. I'm just I am wearing a beanie hat and a hoodie, but I am not cold. Although it is like 30 degrees outside, it's very warm indoors. It's just a time of the year, and I shared this with Ronnie the other day. It's me just giving myself a hug, having like a warm, something warm around me, because this time of the year we always talk about it is rough for a variety of reasons, to say the least. Well, Ronnie, how are you?
Okay, I've had trouble bouncing back. I'm not going to lie.
Right,
Yes, there's a lot of joy in my life.
right,
I make sure to experience it. But it's been hard to focus. Anytime there's change coming,
right,
it's hard to focus. As you know, I'm a person in long-term recovery. I have a lot of faith in the universe
right,
having my back,
right,
in a higher power. But it's been hard to focus because there is a lot of change coming, and
right,
so much of it is fear-based, and I'm trying to stay out of the fear
right.
and look at the possibilities and try to navigate. And that just keeps coming up. I mean, every time we have a conversation with people, it's just the unknown. You don't know what to expect, good, bad, or different.
Right, right.
But we know this change is coming, and we want to make sure that no matter what, the work gets done. We build resilience, and we build a lot of comfort, love, and support for people.
So let me ask you a question, because you shared all the time about your recovery and have you grown or what have you. And shout out to year 27. Applause, applause, applause. Um, how can you help someone who's listening who is on the cusp of being where you are, or making a change in their lives to be where you are, or or is struggling, or hasn't gotten to substance misuse of yet, but how do you deal with change? Like, in is it is it triggering? Is it, because again, we're talking about prevention, but how do you prevent these triggers, or how do you help with these is I'm probably saying it's triggering. Like, how do you deal with change?
Be honest, I mean, I know that a lot of times people in recovery, say that we approach change kicking and screaming and holding on. But I have found for the most part, change brings me something that I can grow with.
Okay.
Um, most change in my life has been for a reason, and it's resulted in something positive.
Okay.
So when change is coming, I try to acknowledge the feelings I'm feeling, because for so long I didn't, and I let those feelings just get numbed and pushed away. So I try to look at, what am I feeling? How realistic is it? I talk about it, and I try to find ways to navigate that change. And the ultimate thing for me is acceptance. And sometimes the change isn't what I want, but that doesn't mean I can't accept that it's happening, whether I like it or not. Because I've had this conversation with people who say, but I can't just accept that. And I say, well, I don't necessarily accept that something's right or wrong. I accept that it is.
Hmm.
And that, I mean, that doesn't mean that I have to agree with the change. But change is tough. It's scary. It does trigger a lot of reactions. Even positive changes, like moving or starting a new job, or, those kind of changes. Those are scary. But, again, they all kind of trigger the same type of emotional response in me. But I've learned to accept change, and I've learned to embrace it. And when it's change that I'm concerned about,
Right.
I try to be prepared for it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Appreciate you sharing that, and I appreciate you also talking about different types of change, whether it's positive or negative. And for those of you who are first time listeners or long time listeners, I am a dad, and one of those things as far as change is something I'm dealing with is my kids getting older, and them,
Mhm.
me being able to accept that they have their own, they're going to have their own lives. They're going to, and I'm like, all right, I'm preparing myself for that change. It hurts, but it's a good change. My oldest is a college graduate. Going into getting her master's. My youngest, he's a freshman in college. So they're on the path to change their lives. And I got accepted. I've been having these conversations with my kids about that change, and I'm like, I don't want to let you go. I tell them I do not want to let you go,
Mm-mm.
but I am going to learn how to accept it. And I think that's what brings myself and my kids bond even closer because they know that Dad wants us here, but he's going to allow us to be ourselves.
And invariably, you have to, even with yourself. Um,
Yes.
but I know this has been a big year for you. You watch
Yes.
your youngest go off to college. Wow, and other stuff I know, that we've talked about. It's hard. You know, for me, today's a kind of a sad anniversary today. It's
Right.
a year that my dog Lucy had to leave us,
Um,
and be put out of her paint. So there was some positive stuff in that change. But I was talking to my wife recently about it, and I said, the hardest part for me is when we lose one of them that first year, because the entire year, every day I'm saying, oh, a year ago she was doing this, a year ago she was doing that, and when I hit that year, it's like I suddenly can let go. I like that. That happened with her sister Katie, who died 2 years prior, and it's just I kept going back a year ago, and today is kind of a release for me. It's sad, but it releases me. It's almost like the official mourning period is over. I needed to do that for a year. I needed to stay in it, and now I can move forward.
hmm. In release. I appreciate you using that term and saying that word release is that something that a lot of again we our podcast is focused around primary prevention or people who are struggling and trying to find a release. And I think which you said is like the time helps you with the release.
Hmm.
And I think that's the important part. And time is tough. time, time, time. Either want things to go faster or you want them to go slower, right?
Right.
And it's like where do you find the balance in time? And like you said, I shared some. Like I started off saying, Ronnie, I've shared a lot with you over the years. You even alluded to I've shared things offline with you, which are personal. And I think part of it is, especially within this year, I'm reminding myself of time and doing my best to release. Really, I've been speaking to people in my family, extended family, just because I'm usually the advisor. I'm usually the one who is the advisor. I was like, you know what? I need some advice how to deal with this time. And for anyone who's listening, whether you're struggling or you thinking about using, take the time to figure out why, what's going on. And then find those people. Like I said, I am the advisor. I am the giver. I want to be the taker. I want to be the
Yeah.
getter.
Well, that's an important realization. And for me, that is a realization that came about in recovery for me. And everybody experiences their own kind of recovery, whether it's
Right.
a self-imposed one or,
Right. Right.
experiential. But I always was the friend director.
Right.
I was the one who did all the plans and pulled everybody together. And I remember on my 40th birthday, I was so worried that my friends, there's our Google Assistant, whatever it is, Alexa. I was so concerned that my friends weren't going to remember my birthday well enough that I started like trying to arrange it and direct it, and they got mad at me. And they said, "Do you really think that little of us that we wouldn't do something special for you? You've always been there for us." And now it's a big realization. and I would be recovery, but I feel like that was my free path, learning that I have to trust people. I have to let go. I don't have to control everything. And that's been something for me. I've had to learn how to ask for help when I need it. I don't need to tell everybody I'm fine. Oh, how are you? Oh, I'm good. I'm great. I'm fine. You know, I remember again, I learned these things are recovery. I didn't come up with them, but fine. And I won't say the words, but it could be effed up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional.
Mhm.
That's the kind of fine I experienced for a very long time, but I'm not always fine. And it's okay. I don't have to be. And that lets me nurture and take care of myself. And that's so important. I mean, that's a huge step for you to say, I need to take care of me or be taken care of.
Mhm. Mhm. And I'm glad you're saying a lot, especially I take in and I receive the things that you are saying, and it's important to say sometimes it's okay to say that you're not okay. You know, I do this thing where I want everyone to be happy because if I know if I'm smiling, guess what? You're gonna smile, right? I have a phrase when someone says, how are things going? I'm like, enjoying life. And wait, what does that mean? Can I use that? I'm like, yeah. And deep down, there are things are going, but I know when I say those things, it uplifts people. And I say positive phrases to uplift people. And then, but when I'm not there, what's happening to them? But I think the important part for me is like, you know what? Could be better.
Yeah.
Could be better.
And that's okay because people respect it and they know it's okay for them to feel that way. If like Chevar, who's always upbeat, is feeling it, I can feel that too. It's okay. We give ourselves permission.
So anyone's listening, it's okay. It's okay to struggle. It's in. Also, I want to say this. It's okay to succeed because people succeed and they tear themselves down, right?
Yeah.
And I'm one of those people. Like, oh my God, I'm leaving people behind. I'm like, oh no, I want everyone to move with me. Sometimes everyone can't move with you,
No, they have to move along the pace that they're able to do.
and that's something I'm learning in like within this time frame that I'm learning. Not everyone's ready. Not everyone will be ready.
Right. But it's like the work we do. What do we tell our coalitions about the communities? Meet them where they're at. And so often, that's the downfall of a coalition. It sets them back. They're wanting to do so much more than the community is ready for.
Mhm.
It comes back to that community readiness stage. Unless you get the community ready, and unless they choose to be ready, there's a two-way process here. Um, your 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 plans are not going to necessarily succeed the way you want them to, or and they're going to succeed the way they need to. We make all these plans. What is it we always talk about? How all the adults make these great plans, but they never ask the young people they're trying to reach. Like, what are you feeling? What's going on with you? We forget to do that sometimes, even in our personal relationships.
And to that point, it's okay to be an elder statesman to reach out to someone younger and say, "Hey, can you give me some advice?" Hey, because they have advice. I talk to my kids all the time, and I've been asking them, and I explain to them, I've been explaining to them, this is about growth for me, you know. Like and I laugh and I smile because they call me and tell me how great of a dad I am, and I'm like, and I beat myself up. I could do this, I could do that, I could do this, I could do that. And then, the funny thing, my kids, I'm not sure if I share this on the podcast, but I think, but my kids have told me, Dad, you can stop praising us. We know who
So, uh,
like, but I've been cut down to listen. I've been cut down to once a month for phrases
oh no,
because I'm like, because like I worked in a service for youth services for a long time. And I've witnessed kids, not get their praise. I've told the story of the young lady who sat in the back of the lunchroom and no one was speaking to her. And instead of going to the staff, I went to her and I asked her how was her day. She said no one's ever asked me that word before. Asked me that phrase ever in my life. I learned from that experience. So, you know, I've had young people Me again, my role was different. I was the program director. I wasn't supposed to be in the classroom sitting with the kids and doing all these things. I'm supposed to be supervisor. Go in the classroom. Oh, you need help with your homework? I sit down with the students. Oh my God, my dad has never done this for me. I think here's my dad. I'm like, nope, not your dad. I'm Chevar. I don't want to take that power away from your dad, you know. But that's why I do the things. I'm like, wait a minute, I don't want to be that dad, that parent. I don't want to put only in dads, but that parent or that person that in their lives that doesn't ask how you're doing. You know, that doesn't sit down. My son's in college. I'm like, yo, bro, call me. 2 o'clock in the morning. You need some help? You studying? Wake me up and I will get up. We'll study together. I tell him that. Let's study together. Although I've been, like I said, regulated to one. One praise a month. I think two. I loves you. I love.
Do I love you so much? Oh no, no.
So all right, my daughter's telling me you need to be mean to us. I'm like, why? Why? Because you know they aren't. You know, well, like, all right. So I'll make fun of her hair or make fun of her legs. And then I apologize. Yeah, stop apologizing. Just let it go. I'm like, all right, cool. So now it's like, you know, and that's the thing. It's okay. You know, my kids are also my teachers. They're also my resource. Um, I've learned to have rough conversations with them. You know, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, you know, sometimes we forget how
It's
resilient
shedding a tear
kids
right
are.
now.
Oh,
It's shedding a tear. I'm sorry, Ronnie. Yeah.
oh, and I am like a pushover for a good dad because I didn't have a demonstrative dad, and my stepdad was very demonstrative, and just I loved him so dearly because of that. So I'm a pushover when I hear about a dad who does what you do. But we often forget how resilient kids are. Well, you know, and all the things you're talking about, it does. It builds self-confidence, builds resilience. They go through ups and downs. They survive stuff that I think as adults we probably couldn't. We would fall
Oh,
off.
absolutely,
Now,
absolutely.
kids are amazing, and you know, one of the things that's been coming up a lot in our conversations with and our TA sessions is how to, you know, keep that momentum going, how to keep the strength
Yes.
and work to address the fears, the concerns with the young people that our coalitions are working with. So I was just looking up you know, just on psychology today, just reading some other articles, because there's still a lot of uncertainty around the future for young
Right.
people.
Right.
Not just for young people, but right now, a lot of the young people that we see are concerned. They're scared. They don't know what's coming. Yes, there are some that are like, oh, I'm really excited. But most of the ones we often tend to work with populations that aren't in that group. And I was just looking, what can you do to help kids get grounded about everything and to move forward without the fear that they're carrying? And just, you know, we'll put these in the description, but there were some great ideas like Psychology Today was like create space for kids' questions and let them express their emotions. And that's something everything that you're saying is in this list. Uh, Share your feelings calmly to model healthy emotional expression. And that's sometimes hard for us because we're not necessarily feeling that way. But it's a good lesson for me in how to communicate and to do it in a way that other people will hear because when I get emotional, it kind of throws things off. You know, an emotion for me can be like, yeah, right, because I'm very passionate, overly. Explain political issues simply, connecting them to kids' everyday experiences. And this is my favorite. Encourage small acts of kindness, build resilience, and foster hope. You know, I think that's great advice.
Absolutely. Definitely, we'll definitely put that resource in the description with the link so you guys can have it and use it. I think practice, and this isn't anyone telling you how to parent, but these are just suggestions. See, we don't tell me how to raise my child. I'm not telling you how to raise your child, but
Right.
there are different ways of doing things, and it doesn't hurt to try, you know, and to give it a shot. Again, parents and isn't easy. It isn't easy. It isn't easy. And you're not. What I've learned for me, and especially with my mom, I've learned you never stop being a parent. like you never stop being it, but you never stop calling. You'll stop caring. I call my mom every other day. Yo, mom, I know as a teenager I was wandering outside. I apologize for freaking you out. Like you're right wondering where I was. So I still to this day call my mom and apologize to her. And to the point about uh young people having a bright mind and this is just me and I'm a big Peanuts fan, a big Charlie Brown fan, a big
Hello.
Snoopy fan. If you ever seen a peanut read a Peanuts comic strip or watched a Peanuts cartoon, whether it was a holiday cartoon, I know they wore it Saturday morning at one point. Those young people, Charlie Brown had probably one of the first Friendsgiving. They had to cook for they had to do things amongst themselves without adults. Charlie Brown was reading War and Peace. Linus was giving the first TED Talks. If you ever watched Linus talk, he gives he gives a TED Talk, dude. I'm like, dude, you guys are 8 and 9 years old, so just keep that in mind. I know that's fictional, but just remind yourselves when you were that age, you had deep conversations.
Oh my God, yes.
You knew if someone was using and how and you had to navigate it. Those are just struggles. Whether you lashed out, whether you kept it to yourself, you dealt with it. And how did you deal with it? And if your mind you didn't deal with it to the best of your abilities, how do you pay it forward and say, "Hey, young person, this is what I went through. How could I help you? You know, how could I help guide you because this is how I struggled. I didn't deal with it well." And that's okay. It is totally okay. You can't. I Let me rephrase it. I do not. I do my best not to hold my kids responsible based on their reaction and their feelings,
Mhm.
because like they have to have their emotions, and then we talk about it. Why were you mad? Blah blah blah. All right, cool. Let's get through it. What can we do to get through it?
Yeah, I mean, they need to know they have a safe place to share their feelings,
Right.
and that they're not alone in what they're going through. And this, I mean, this is always, but during holiday times, there's a lot of triggers. See people kind of move towards using, or experimenting during these times, and it's important to always be vigilant about it and create those open spaces and use empathy and let them know it's okay to feel the way you do.
Yeah.
Um, but it's interesting, because kids, I'm amazed at what young people remember. We don't realize the effect we have on their lives till later on. I recently there was a I used to teach in a private school from 79 through 81 in a private school in Flushing, Queens. I was also playing music full time. A lot of my students would come and hear us play. It wasn't the healthiest lifestyle for them to follow, but they have a Facebook group and some of them were posting, does anyone know what happened to these teachers? So I just posted that, in case any of you remember me, and I said, what I taught English from 79 through 81. And the series of posts that came after that of their memories of my classes blew me away because I was struggling. I'll be honest, that wasn't my best time of life. It was a rough time. I was using heavily. I couldn't deal with anything. And but there was still a glimmer of who I am that came through. And the big memory a lot of them had was that the day John Lennon died, I came into the classroom and wrote on the board that John Lennon died. I cannot teach today. I lit a candle, dim the lights, and we talked. And so many of them remembered that day and how much it meant to them. And another one, this blew me away too, because we think of learning in terms of traditional learning, that one of the best things he ever learned, we used to talk about popular songs and dissect them and have deep philosophical discussions. And he remembers taking the song American Pie and looking at its meaning and what it taught
Mhm.
him about, looking into things in deep analytical discussion and thought. Sometimes we don't realize the small things we do make such a big difference. Teaching kids to think, to have analytical, open-minded thinking. How often do we see that neglected in in after school programs and in schools? And it's not because anybody's trying to hurt them, but there's so much pressure to complete curricula and other things like that, and we forget about the things that give them a space to talk and think and feel.
Mhm. I'm sorry. I'm receiving. I'm taking it all in. You were absolutely right. Again, we said this in previous podcasts. when you're doing service work, there's no instant gratitude. Or there's no instant gratitude. In those, whether it's a young person or older person, they're going to remember you. You know, they might not tell you thank you that day. They might be pissed and curse at you and blah blah blah. And then, you know, a few years later, they'll see you and say thank you. You know, and because we don't know what they're going through at the moment, so they may be upset, and it might not even be you. It might be who they are, or it might have been the person before you. You know, or the three people before you. You know, and it is hard. No one wants to be yelled at or cursed at. But again, in service work, whether you're a teacher, social worker, crossing guard, like I speak every morning. I speak to like the crossing guard who used to cross my son and daughter. She's still a crossing guard. Every morning I say hello to her, and she remembers me. I'm an adult. She stopped traffic for me, but
Well, yeah, but you make her day probably.
because I say hello to her, good morning, and every day I see her every day. Well, not every day. If I go out and when I do I see her and I say good morning, say hello. She'll ask about the kids. Not as much as before, but she remembers and she said, and when she sees me, has a smile, takes out a stop sign. I got you, baby. across the street. I'm like, all right, cool. I'll accept it.
I love that. Oh, yeah, but think about it. I mean, and I don't want to make this a challenge, but sometimes people get so busy. I'm challenging all of our listeners and our viewers today, tomorrow, every day, take the time to speak to at least one person directly instead of speaking at them, speak to them. Look in their eyes. Even if you're at the store and someone's packing your bags, look at their name badge. Oh,
Yes,
hi, Shelley. Thank you
yes,
so
yes,
much.
yes,
How's your day going?
yes,
15 seconds. It will make someone's day. People
yes.
don't realize that, and I try to remind myself of that, to speak directly to the people who do service work because they get caught up in this holiday rush, things get crazy, and the next thing you know, and nobody really has any tolerance for them, and the expectations are ridiculously high.
Right.
I mean, I remember having a job at Macy's I lasted, I think, a week, during the holidays. I was like, "I can't handle this." So think about what they take. Just a minute to acknowledge them and talk to them. Talk to the crossing guard.
Mhm.
Say hello to the person in the street. I mean, there's a lady here where I live who dances in the street. She stands on street corners. She's got her earbuds in, and she dances with wild abandon. And people make fun of her. I always stop and I give her a thumbs up, and she smiles and she throws her hands up in the air and dances more because she makes me smile.
Mm.
You
Mm.
know, we get so lost in our lives. We want a kinder society. Let's start with ourselves.
All right, I'm gonna make a joke. So here you go.
Okay.
Uh, one of the reasons why you should say hello to Jan or Greg at the grocery store or at the Walmart, what have you. You acknowledge them, they'll give you the bags for free. If you're nice to them, they won't charge you for the bags.
You're so funny.
It's the truth, though. It's the truth. I took my mom shopping last weekend, and she's like, they didn't charge us for the bags. I was like, you just, you know, I was talking to everyone in the store. We were the trading. I was talking to everyone. Hey, such and such, reading the name tags, you know, asking questions and being very polite. They didn't, you know, she's like, they didn't charge us. Yeah, just say hello, say the names. Yeah, this is a true story.
Well, I'm glad you got your bags free. I usually have my older than old reusable bags. For some reason,
Mine are
get
falling apart.
yeah, they're falling apart. So I forget to get new ones. They don't last forever.
Yeah.
I mean, Target gives great bags, but I found out if you leave them in the car in the sun, they disintegrate.
What?
Yeah.
Listen, what does you're listening to that, right?
Yeah, I've had it happen where I go to pack stuff, they fall apart. Just
Not, no, no.
figures all over the counter.
Oh, okay, okay. They need to be cool, kept in a dry, cool place.
All right, well, we're talking about things that make us smile and everything. Let's
Um,
talk about for a minute things that make me crazy.
that's good.
All right. One of the things that makes me crazy is when adults will say, "I don't understand they're having such a hard time. This is the best time in their lives." I do not remember my teenage years as
Right,
the best time. I remember them as some of the worst.
right.
I mean, that's such a. I would not want to be, a young or an adolescent again. I mean, so when you hear, I've heard so many adults just not understand. I don't get it. That's the best time of their lives. They need to learn that. No, you need to learn that it's not like that. You're forgetting. That makes me crazy. And I have to remind people, I did not have a good adolescence. I did a lot of cool, fun things, but I was miserable inside. It's hard. I didn't know who I was. Just all the changes you go through. Life's hard at that age.
Very hard. Life is very hard.
So that's something that makes me crazy.
I mean, you know what? It's crazy that you say that. Like, like people tend to forget, like, when people say to me, how was your teenage years? Because the people say that because, oh, you don't have to pay bills. You're right. They don't have to do these things, but they also, there's the other part that being a teenager, you're still in school. You're still living at home. You're still living under people's rules, right? So, I mean, granted, you might have been carefree, but it wasn't what you, like, to your point, Ronnie, go back and look at your teenage years. Go back and truly look at your teenage years. And how fun was it? Were you ever bullied? Did that girl or guy tell you no? How did you react when they told you no? Right? Did you fail a test? How did that feel? Did mom and dad didn't have food for you at that night? Did you get punished? Or was your life perfect? And I'm not trying to tear anyone down, but like, to your point, like, that, and young people do look to become adults because you want that freedom. But I think as the adults, we realize we still don't get that freedom that we think we're going to have.
Oh no.
So what grinds my gears? There's quite a few things. What grinds my gears? People who victim blame and don't take accountability.
Mm.
Because it's like, I've learned to tell people, look into yourself before you point the fingers at others. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, and I told you I'm not perfect. They're like, oh, Chevar, your life is great. I'm like, it ain't great, homie. It ain't great. It ain't, but you carry it so well. It takes a lot of work to carry it, right?
It does. But we're under so much pressure to make it look good. I mean, how often do you see people on Facebook posting about or another social media about their wonderful life, and you're thinking, I don't know,
Your life is not.
you have some stuff going on there. What are you talking about? You just complain to me about your spouse or your kids or or I know what's really going on here. And you see the picture perfect image, put out there. And I get it. People don't want to say, oh, my life sucks, I'm miserable. But
Nobody wants to say that.
let there be some truth in it.
Right. And what I learned from it is that people who do the victim, it's like, what I've learned, this isn't, I'm not saying everyone, screw it. People, it's like, dude, you're putting your pain on someone else because you're going through something, you don't know how to deal with it. When you really sit down and get to the root of it, why are you mad? I know this is a different side of Chevar that you probably have come across, but this is a part of my growth. It was like, why are you mad? Like, why are you upset? Because I've come across people and they'll try to tell people's stories. I always say because I have people who share a lot of personal things with me, and I'll tell, and I'll always say that's their story to tell, and I'll have someone come and say, such and such did this, or such and such is using that. Okay, what do you do if it's bad? What are you doing to help them? And then why are you telling me this? If they told you this, they told you this in confidence, right? Or if someone at a third party, why you didn't pick up the phone or reach out to the person, right? Like, and then you get to the root of it. You don't like them for whatever reason. You're mad at your life for whatever reason. Hey, bro, fix you. I know that sucks. That, like, you guys have heard tons of podcasts where I'm like super positive, and I'm still positive. What I'm saying is positive. It's more direct.
Okay, but you're like a real person. So it isn't always like I'm in the positive this moment. I mean, we all have our struggles, and I don't know. Again, I've learned so much in recovery. I feel like I'm a different person than I was, and there's 3 words that I used to hear somebody say, and I've kept them. It's someone I knew in Nashville, and his sponsees would call to complain, and he'd have a message on his answering machine because it knows you have an answering machine. And the message was, it isn't them.
Oh, yeah.
It isn't them. You know, people do what they do, but how do I respond? How do I react? What is my behavior like as a result? I got to look at that.
And for those who heard that piece, this is based, like I said, I'm based at the top of the show, my growth, speaking of Ronnie, Ronnie, advising me, sharing thoughts, speaking of friends and family, I think it's extremely important to know that this isn't a slight to you. Here comes the positive part of me. This isn't a slight to you. This is about acknowledgement, and trying to figure out how to help you grow. And I said the word grow about like 17 times this episode. Or growth, or a variation of growing. This is about your growth, and sometimes you gotta do the work, but this is what grinds my gears. Another thing. Like who say, I'm working on myself, but then you chastise everyone else. Then you're not working on yourself. You're not. You're not. And it's like, I gotta fix me first. And if you're saying it in that turn, you are broken. And that's okay. But don't take it out on everyone else because you're broken. And that kind of like, what I've come across, if people would do that, they usually do it to people who help them. And then those people, when they're in need, and it's like, well, I can't help you because I got to work on me. And I'm like, wait a minute, but I was there for you. And I've witnessed that.
Right.
And
And
like,
that's hurtful,
it's very hurtful.
but I have to remind myself I did something because my heart told me to do it.
Absolutely.
And I know you're the same way. You do because, and you're not, and you don't expect anything in return. But it, I have a neighbor. And again, this is not even a friend, but I have a neighbor I've known for 8 years. My dogs love her. We always talk in the back. And recently, her family, she's in her 50s. Her mom's like 80. They lost their home. And we tried to help. We were heartbroken for them. And there was some solutions, but they just didn't want to deal with it. I think they were so worn down at that point. It was easier to just give up the home, sell it, get probably far less than it's worth, and just move on. And they're in the process of packing all their stuff. And she spoke to me in the beginning, but now in the last 2 weeks, she's avoided me because I think she doesn't want to talk about it. And I don't want her to talk about it. I would just say, "Hey, how are you?" But I'm concerned she's not going to say goodbye. And we've talked about it, and I realized it's not about me. She can't handle it. Um, and my dog threw a ball over the fence to her yard. Yes, because she played with her, or she used to. And poor Hannah keeps going to the fence like, where are you? Throw my ball. I had to get the ball myself today, and it broke my heart. But I have to remember they are going through a change in a house they've lived in for over 40 years, and their whole life is an upheaval. And I also remind myself that maybe this is a new start for them. Maybe the things that have held them back will really open up for them. So we've been talking about it, and I said to my wife, I said, what if she doesn't say goodbye? So well, you can't, put her in that position. I said, you know what? What I can do is wish them luck. Send it back
Absolutely.
and wish luck and just accept that it was too
Absolutely.
much. She just couldn't handle it. And I know that's the pain, but it's just weird because she's always been a fixture out there. She waited for the dogs to play with them. So people are going to go through what they need to go through. It may not be the way I do it or you do it, but it's their process. And again, it comes back to
Absolutely.
going to where people are at. We always come back to that thing.
Yeah. Allow them to be. That's something I had to learn. And allow people to be. It's tough. It's tough. It's tough. It is really tough, but allow people to be, I think, is the most important part. And sometimes it requires letting go. Sometimes it requires stepping back or stepping aside.
Yeah.
And especially if it's people you care deeply about, and it's not that you don't care about them. It's time. You're giving them time.
Yeah. And I think that's important. And youth, I mean, coming back to the idea of youth and talking about that are
Yes.
going through difficult times, we need to let them be who they are too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. My kids will tell you. Yeah, he said, I was there. supported 1,000%, probably too much for them. But they both appreciated it. Like, when they got older, both in their freshman years of college, they both came back to me in separate occasions. My daughter, first year, was like, Dad, I didn't realize you did so much for. And then she started speaking to friends like, Dad, I didn't literally says to me, like, I didn't realize we went on so many vacations. We did all these things, blah, blah, blah. And a few weeks ago, I think I'm not sure I shared it on the podcast, but I'm pretty sure I shared it with you, Ronnie. My son called me, Dad, I didn't know you did all of this, and I thought that was what it was regular. Like all dads did do these things. So that right there, it was like, you know what? I can praise once a month now. I can, because I did my job.
You did, and you continue to do it, and it changes as we go along. But and again, we're going to be navigating change. We do anyway.
Right.
No one day is the same as the one before. We have
Absolutely.
daily challenges, and I
Absolutely.
think we're about to, and have to confront some major challenges.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to be able to talk about it, to open up, just let people know that whatever they're feeling, it's okay.
Yes.
And just go back very quickly, because I like to look at it as a prevention
Yes, absolutely.
technique too, because this is all about prevention. They're really
Absolutely.
creating these safe spaces for
Mhm.
all kids, for all adults. I had the best mom. I adored my mom. We were very close. She was an amazing mom. But there were things that happened in certain, things maybe said or done that I know affected me. And confronting those as an adult was very helpful for me. And one of the things she used to always say, we don't get depressed. We don't get depressed. And I would get depressed, but I would snap myself out of it, or I'd pull myself up, but I wasn't really doing anything but covering it up. And and when I started working the steps in recovery, I realized that it's okay to give myself space to be depressed. As long as I don't stay there. If I do, then I need help. But it's okay. All those years of we don't get depressed, I think part of why I used was because I didn't want to feel that way, rather than dealing with my feelings. So, that was a big realization for me, that it's okay to feel certain ways.
Can I ask you a question? Because
Yeah.
were you able to circle back with your mom and say, "Hey, mom, let's talk about the things that were said," did you ever get a chance to bring them up to her?
Some of them, yeah. I mean,
Uh,
pretty much. Yeah.
how did that go? If you don't mind,
Oh,
or if you don't want to share, you don't have to.
oh no, I don't mind at all. My mom, I mean, in let's see, 8 days, she'll be gone 18 years. That's hard to believe.
Oh, wow.
And we every night, even right before, till up to the point when she died, we were doing the Final Jeopardy over the phone. Wherever I live, we always connected. But yeah, I did talk about that stuff because it was safe to talk to her. She had grown, and I remember when telling her when I got into recovery, it was a hard discussion to have. And she said, "Oh, you're not an addict." And I said, "Yes, I am. And I need you to accept that." She said, at first, this will make you laugh. When I brought it up to her, I said, "Oh, I thought you were going to tell me you're gay." Now, I hadn't approached that yet in my life. And and as I said it in the eulogy at her funeral, no, that was going to come later. Um, and she actually had trouble with that. She had the most trouble with my sexual orientation, and that was something that it took her a while to accept, but she accepted it, and she wound up, she needed her space and her time, and I gave it to her. And we talked about it, and I said, she said, "I'm conventional." I'm like, "No, you're not. You live in a very unconventional way, but until you're ready to accept it, I accept that. I just want you to give me the same backing and consideration, acceptance that I give you." And she did. You know, it passed. She got over it. And she said to me, "I'll never forget." Well, I always hoped that I'd have grandchildren. When I'm telling her this, I'm in my late 40s. And Ma, I did that. So anyway, it's funny, but most of the time I can find something to laugh about, even in misery. But I also can find things to cry about, and I give myself permission to do that.
Absolutely. I asked that because I know we got to get out of here soon, but I asked that because my mom said, and I love my mom dearly. She's my heart, and she said things to me Like I was a super chill teenager, super chill teenager. Anyone knows me. I was super calm, super chill. Only time you would see a lot of energy out of me when I played sports. Otherwise, it is what it is. And I remember her, coming in the room and yelling at me, and I'm not sure I told the story, but yelling at me, and I'm just sitting there looking at her. I was playing video games. I was playing at the time it was Xbox. It was one of the NFL 2K games before Madden took over completely. But anyway, that's for the gamers out there. And I'm sitting there playing the game, and then I pause it and I look at her. And she's yelling at me. God knows why. I had no clue why she was yelling at me. I don't remember to this day. And she says to me, Why are you not mad? Why are you not yelling back? Are you on drugs or something?" I'm like, why would I do drugs? I'm like, apparently I did something they should mad about. I'm just figuring out what did I do? And you always told me to accept if I did something wrong, to accept it and we'll deal with it. But I don't know what I did wrong. I bring that story to say later in life, I sat around that and I spoke to her about it. She's to this day says she's never said that. She would never. I'm like, Ma, I was there, and you were mad about something, and I have no idea what you were mad about today. And I think she got upset because I didn't react the way she thought I would react. I'm like, dude, you should know me. I'm calm and chill. And like, and apparently, and I said, apparently, I did something wrong, and I just want to know what it is so I can accept the consequences and move on. And I don't think that was the response she expected.
Probably not.
It's just that's how she raised me. Like, dude, you do it, you do the crime, you do the time. You accept it, you move on. That's how she raised me. So it was like, okay. And we laugh about it, although she denies it ever happened.
Yeah, I think it's really positive that even if she doesn't remember it, that you can talk about it, and that's the beauty, of open relationships, of being accepting, just being able to hear each other, and maybe that's the thing that we need to keep in mind. We just need to provide space for people to share who they are.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, we're getting to that time,
The
Chevar.
kids, if you're listening to this, you can talk to dad. You know me. Anyway, yes, we're at that time. Ronnie, can you share the call to action one more time for those who might have missed it? And they're probably out there crying. Oh my God, this is so emotional.
The call to action is today, tomorrow, each day, and not just during the holidays. Just recognize, speak to one person who you normally would speak at, or a lot of people speak at. Even if it's the person sitting next to you on the train, say good morning, look in their eyes. 2-second interaction. Let's remember that we connect on more things than we don't connect on. And let's not use the humanity that exists within us and the empathy to shut each other out. We need to unite within kindness. We need to unite with the light. So I'm asking people to just take a moment out of their day, just acknowledge somebody. It will make their day.
Well, guess what?
What?
This is the solution. Nothing changes if we change nothing.
And let's start changing. See you next time.